Good morning, Honorable Mahlon, Tlantla, and everyone on the platform. Good morning.
Hey,
Morning, morning, Chair.
morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, madam?
We are fine, sis. We are fine. We are fine. We are in the bus going to Parliament. You know, the issue
Yeah.
the virtual, and I didn't see it. I was not going to go to Parliament. I was going to be in my house and attend the visual meeting. I only see it that there's a visual meeting now. You know, Cindy sent it last night, but I didn't see it.
Okay, sorry.
I was not going to go to Parliament today. But anyway, I'm on the way already.
Cindy, please indicate as soon as we correct. And the co-chairperson, if she's available here.
Will do. We're not a quorum right now, but I'll let you know. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to let the AG colleagues that I've given you sharing rights. So when it's time to do the presentations, you are free to share your presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Cindy. We will do so. Tasneem will be presenting the presentation, and I will do the presentation. Thanks so much for letting us know.
Thanks, Ms. Adams.
Good morning, honorable members. I think we can start our meeting. Am I audible, members?
You
Hello?
are
Morning,
muted.
Chair.
Morning, Chair. Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Morning, Deputy Chief Whip. Is the speaker on the platform? Or Honorable Masondo?
Not yet, Chairperson.
Not here. Okay. The STP is here.
Yes,
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, we can start. The co-chairperson, I haven't seen her, but I think she'll be joining us as we go on. Let me take this opportunity, honorable members, and greet you in this important day for our parliament, where we're going to receive and congratulate, welcome the Springboks, the Boke. We are hosting, hence I think the executive members are not here because that's their responsibility. They are the ones who will be leading or will be representing us. And also because of that, honorable members, we don't have the luxury of time. We'll be pressured because we know some of you have responsibilities that you need to do in as far as that activity is concerned. You are all welcomed, honorable members. Office of the AG, you are also welcome. Team Parliament led by the STP, welcome. Let me also welcome the support staff in this meeting. I think Cindy, everybody who's supposed to present, they've got the hosting rights so that they can manage their presentations. And as you can see the agenda, we have allocated times, and I want to appeal to members, please, to make sure that we don't do the preambles and straight to the point, to the question, so that we allow those of us who are expected or who wants to join the welcoming team, members of parliament and others at parliament can do so physically. Having said that, honorable members and the staff, you're all welcome. The speaker, I understand he has just joined. Honorable Speaker, you're welcome. Honorable Speaker. Maybe someone joined on with her gadget or...
Perhaps, Chair, because I don't see the speaker now.
Pardon? You have just received it now.
No, I don't. Yeah, the name popped up, but then I don't see her among the participants. So I think maybe speaker's is having technical issues.
No technical issues. I'm sorry, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You're welcome, Honorable Speaker. And I'm sorry that I'm just going to give you a platform as per the agenda. We understand these glitches, and you also understand the responsibility that you have to go and perform as Parliament is welcoming and congratulating the Springboks team, our team. This opportunity now is for you to give the overview. We don't have much time because we also want to join you there, Honorable Speaker. Is it only you? Okay.
For now, I don't see whether Dr. Masondo is here yet.
He's not
However,
there.
honorable members, I don't see him here. Remember, I'm on a virtual, so I'm at a different venue, and I am getting ready to leave the place and go to Parliament to receive the box at 9.
Okay.
But honorable members, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for allowing us. I know that this meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks ago, but we could not be here to participate and to engage in discussions with you about the report. But just to say that, honorable members, on the whole, I am happy with the manner in which Parliament is discharging and performing its functions. Yes, of course, we do have challenges. Yes, at times when you look at the performance information, it is not always as satisfactory as we would want it to be. However, the most important thing as well is that we, at least money which is allocated to Parliament, has been well spent, and people may know that the cost of spending that money, all processes are followed. I'm aware that Parliament
Recording in progress.
Our spend without a glitch with a report, and we are very happy about that. There are areas we've identified where we lack, such as the area of communication. Yes, we are also a bit rather uncomfortable at times about the area of public interaction, stakeholder engagement. Still, those are not matters which impact negatively on our work. They impact negatively of the image, the perception, which is from people about us, which is that when it comes to consultation, there is an adequate consultation with regards to pieces of legislation which we pass with the stakeholders. And these are areas we believe that we can sort out. I believe that we're not doing that bad, but we need to sort out those issues. Of course, honorable members, the unfortunate thing is that we then had this fire in Parliament. And it has created a lot of, I wouldn't say instability, because the work of committees continue. Committees hold their meetings, whether virtually or in a hybrid form, but that work continues. But to be honest, it is a serious, on our side, it has had a very negative impact in the manner in which we conduct our business. Two things I would like to raise here this meeting. And that is firstly the issue of transfer of funding from Parliament to political parties. This is an area which is concerning us, because this is a matter which has not been entertained by the two arms of state, namely the executive and the legislature. The money which is transferred from to the different political parties represented comes from the baseline of the budget of Parliament of the Republic of South Africa. Our view is that there should be a direct transfer to the political parties, or maybe through the IEC, but it cannot be that in the baseline of Parliament that you have this large
amount of money which goes to all political parties directly from our side, because it is not calculated as money that will be transferred. It is calculated as, this is your baseline, this is what you will spend in the course of doing your work in Parliament. And that is a big concern for us. But also the issue of Parliament, which continues a top on our side, which is that, yes, this is a benefit for members of Parliament. Yes, it's a benefit for all those who are in public office. But the reality
Speaker, we've lost you.
I'm raising this matter because I believe that about time that there's serious engagement on engaging with the Department of, with National Treasury Minister. We've had 2 meetings with him where we are suggesting that there should be a direct transfer to political, but it cannot be funded from Parliament, but rather should be funded directly from National Treasury. So we do have kinds of changes, and they impact on the work that we do on the members. And I must say that with regards to
Lost you again.
Honorable Speaker, with regards to?
Yes,
saying
on the whole, honorable members, we are happy with the audit report, but we believe that we could do better as Parliament. And I believe that the appointment of the Secretary of Parliament, an appointment of CFO, which we have done, and the appointment of the Chief of Security in Parliament, those 3 posts, which were very senior posts within our legislature, now that they feel, I think there will be a visible difference in the manner in
Yes, Speaker, you are struggling with your network.
I am struggling, but nonetheless, honorable members, the issue I'm raising is that the filling of the key vacancies for us is one of the major achievements which we have had now, but also the most important thing which we have to seriously look into is basically the entire baseline of the budget. For now, Parliament is, yes, it is Parliament, it is the third arm or the second arm of the state, but unfortunately, the manner in which we have handled issues there, it's you would think that we are just one of the government departments, and yet even the allocation of Parliament should really be informed by interactions we have with National Treasury, so that there's agreement and an understanding on how we will spend money that is allocated to us. So on that note, honorable members, I think that I'm happy with the work of restoration, which is not part of this report, honorable members. As you know, the restoration process is underway. And I think for me, the most important of all of is that members of Parliament, all of them without exception, have offices from where they can function. We've succeeded in doing that, but also the rubble which has been there, which is equal to tons and tons, which they've been moving for the past couple of months, has been removed. So I think that we are taking baby steps, but we are doing well. I am confident, in fact, that even the deadline which we have set for ourselves for the actual completion of the restoration process will be met. That is all I would want to say, honorable members, and request the chairpersons, if I'm allowed, to be allowed to proceed, to leave from where I am and proceed to Parliament, so that when the buses arrive at 9, I am there to receive our guests. So I will not be part of the discussions, honorable members. So it applies to Honorable Masondo as well, because we will put together. But honorable members, if we finish there on time, I will log in again and be part of the conversations which we will have with the Auditor General. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. A good start for the meeting with that positive input or overview. I think you are speaking the language. It does really confirm that we are together. The concerns that you are having as members of the committee, we share the same concerns. And I'm happy that we have raised them, that they are getting your attention. Members will comment, and I think now we can release you. We know the responsibility that you have to take. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to you, honorable member. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Honorable members, let's go to item number 2 and allow the AG to make their presentation.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Co-Chairperson and Honourable Members of the Committee, Honourable Secretary of Parliament and the officials of Parliament. So I'll just put my video up at the beginning, but I'll put it off because there is some challenges with the bandwidth. So Honourable Chair, it's a privilege for us then to present the audit outcomes of Parliament. We also thought we would use the opportunity to share the outcomes of the legislature sector and also some of the additional work that we've done linking back to the lived realities of citizens. Tasneem will just assist with putting the presentation up. If we can go immediately to our mission as the AGSA, as we have a constitutional mandate. And I think important as an independent assurance providers, we provide outcomes to various government institutions on the financial affairs and the performance information, compliance to laws and regulation, and to ensure that actually there's credible information in them achieving their targets, both from a financial and a performance side. So as AGSA, everything we do, whether we conduct our audits, whether we provide insight, the work that we do, especially the insight that we bring on the performance information in the material irregularity, links back to the lived reality of citizens. And this will enable oversight, accountability, and governance in the public sector through the auditing that we do ultimately. If I can go then to the second slide. And I think this is a critical important slide, and it actually demonstrates all the key role players in the accountability ecosystem and the important role that each role player has to play in terms of their mandate or either moral responsibility, and this important in terms to assist with public sector accountability. And ultimately, I think important in terms of these key role players that plays their role, each role player has a critical important part to play as part of the accountability ecosystem. And what happens if one role player does not play his role, it weakens the other role player. And hence, I think as Parliament, this oversight committee as Parliament has an absolutely critical role to play as part of this oversight mechanism. And as AGSA, we are indicating we cannot do this alone. So we need all the role players in the accountability ecosystem to play their part that ultimately will then drive the impact on the lives of citizens of South Africa. And I think this is quite important in terms of the key role. And one of the key things that we said for us to be able to see the culture shift and audit is moving in terms of the continuum to doing good, this would be critically important that the key role plays a part. As AGSA, we will make sure we provide appropriate insights to eliminate our users and also influence in the right way. And when we are not being heard or listened to, then we will definitely use our enforcement powers, which is our material irregularities. If I can then move over to the next slide and just a high level of the recommendations in the prior year that we've issued. So there were two recommendations that we've put on the table. The one was relating to the control environment around performance information, and we can indicate that the appropriate controls has been put in place at Parliament for the year under review. The second one was relating to the process of the fire and making sure there's appropriate mechanism, also from accounting perspective, how to deal with it, and relating to the refurbishment of the actual building. So there also, it's in progress currently, and I know there has been an investigation that has been completed, which the Secretary shared the other day via the media. But this is also an item from our perspective that we will keep a close eye as part of the audit process. Honorable Chair, we thought it was important in the next slide, just on a high level, to come present to you the audit outcomes of the other legislatures, because Parliament has also oversight to play over these legislatures. So I think what we want to indicate, there has been improvement in the audit outcomes when we look year on year, 3 improvements. And when we look over the term of the administration, there has been 4 improvements in the audit outcome. So for the improvements for the current year, it's Limpopo Legislature, Northern Cape, and the Free State Legislature. And in this instances, in the prior year, they either had findings in the area of performance information or compliance to laws and regulations, and they were able then to address these findings. The only legislature currently just sitting in the unqualified zone with findings is Northwest, that literally just have findings on compliance to laws and regulations relating to deviations and also payments not made within 30 days. I think what is important to note, there's no Parliament or legislature that's in the area of qualified adverse or disclaim. So all of them receive an unqualified report. And I think this is such important because as Parliament and legislature, having that responsibility to play oversight, that they lead by example so others can see that this is possible. If I can then move over to the next slide, Honourable Chairperson, and y'all focus on the audit outcomes for Parliament for the year under review. And I think important to note that when looking at this outcomes, it's important to refer to the annual report at 70 to 74 that basically indicates what is included in our audit report. And then in that audit report, we basically highlight specific paragraphs on the audit outcome of Parliament. So in the instance of the quality of the financial statements, it received an unqualified audit opinion. Also in the area of the performance information, it had no material findings similar to compliance to laws and regulations. So ultimately, Parliament did receive a clean audit outcome for the year under review once again. The one key thing, Honourable Chair, we wanted just to highlight that we've indicated, I think in the second paragraph, there's no approved framework for Parliament and legislature regarding the audit of performance information. And we do believe that is such critical that the framework must be concluded, approved, that will provide important direction in terms of how to account for the performance information within Parliament and the legislature. And we do believe this is such an important component because it links back to the lived reality of the citizens in terms of the work from a Parliament and the oversight side that they've got to play in this regard. So that is one of the key matters that I wanted to highlight. If I can move over to the next slide, and it deals with the annual irregular expenditure, and we can see it has been a decrease from the prior to the current year, and there is an amount of 124,000 included in the annual report of Parliament as part of the financial statements. So here again, we were going to ask Parliament just to continue on the best practices and making sure that the compliance to laws and regulations are achieved. But mainly it related to 3 quotes not obtained, and hence that was the reason for the finding. If I can move over then to the next slide that deals with the financial health of Parliament, and I think important to note overall, when we were just assessing the information from an expenditure management perspective, and noted the decrease in the payment ratio when it comes to the creditors, a decrease from 62 to 65 days. And then also from an increase in terms of the outstanding debt, from a debt impairment that has increased in the current year from 25 to 45, but also noted there was a decrease in terms of the collection. But important to note in terms of Parliament's financial position, from a surplus for the year, we've noticed they've made a surplus for the year, and also the net current and net liability is in a good position. But however, the challenge currently is still the net overall liability, because of the post-retirement benefit of all the members of Parliament that's included in there. So currently it's sitting at a net liability of 1.2 billion as disclosed in the financial statements. From a cash perspective, also Parliament is sitting in a positive cash balance with 605 million as at year in this financial statement. So I think that was things that I wanted to highlight just in terms of Parliament's financial health and what are some of the key indicators that has an impact on the financial health. So Honourable Chair, if you will just spend me a minute or so just to spend some time just on some of the work that we've done in the current year. So this work we started actually in the prior year, where we started just to look from the roles and responsibility from an oversight between Parliament and legislatures that they do play, and we do believe it's such a critical role in this regard. And important to note, when we were starting to look at this work, and it was more for us to be able to shine the light in the right direction, so that we are able then to influence for different action. So starting from the work last year, this year also, we basically did just some follow-up work in terms of the resolution tracking. And similar, looking at the work that Parliament does from a portfolio committee perspective when the review of the APPs comes. So there were specific committees that we selected both from Parliament side and all the legislatures in the various provinces. And for Parliament, we've specifically looked at the Department of Water Sanitation, Department of COCTA, we've looked at DPME and Department of Mineral and Resources and Energy. And in the legislature, we basically looked at the key service delivery departments. And what the key focus of that was first of all to say, as portfolio committees, there's an important role that they do play when the APPs comes for tabling to the various legislatures and to Parliament. And what we have noticed, specifically, we've looked at, was there procedures in place in terms of a mechanism for this work to be done by the portfolio committee and the appropriate tracking of their resolutions. And yes, we did find there is a mechanism in place for them to be able to track the resolution. Then we've also looked in terms of the timeliness of the reviews of the APP by the respective committees of that needs to do this. And I think important when we were looking at this in terms of the respective committee was just concerned in the timing and also in terms of the evaluation process, because ultimately what we found then in certain cases, there's certain recommendations given to update this information, but ultimately doesn't then translate back to the APPs. And ultimately it happens late, so it then doesn't meet the timelines in terms of legislation. We also maybe wanted to suggest DPME does also a detailed review, so we must see how that information can upfront be shared for the portfolio committees when this oversight work is then done in this regard. We've also then looked at in terms of the resolution tracking, and we did notice there is a process in place in terms of the resolution tracking that goes via the National Assembly and for the various provincial legislature. Secondly, we looked at the oversight mechanism that's in place at Parliament, and basically just to see in terms of the oversight model, how does it function? is there clear rules established? And we did confirm for National Parliament, all legislatures, those things are in place. And in terms of the accountability model and guidance as outlined and the adoption of the rules, that it is effectively in place and it is functioning. We've also further looked at the terms of reference, which is basically the next slide, and the tracking of the resolution, specifically in relating to key projects and that how that basically unfolds. So if we can go to the next slide, Tasneem, relating to the reference of the portfolio. And I think what we are indicating there are clear terms of reference. It's well established. There is frameworks in place and also frameworks in place in terms of tracking these resolutions that's in place. One of the recommendations that we wanted to give, because also when we were looking at the legislature as part of it, when it comes to tracking of the resolution, there were some challenges that was picked up. So ultimately, the committee goes to the House, it's adopted, is then tracked from that perspective. So what we are maybe just recommending, it should then be continuously also be monitored at the portfolio committee. And we know it's being then monitored from the National Assembly perspective, and similar then for the legislatures in this regard. The other one, we were just looking, the work that the committees does, is there a key focus on infrastructure? Because we know from a budget perspective, a large portion of the budget is spent on infrastructure. And what we've actually seen in 2 instances, yes, we found that committees was focusing on this. So hence, we're basically saying that there should be a key focus also for some of the other committees, taking into account a large portion of the budget is spent. Then my last slide that I've got, Honourable Chair, is the call to action, where we basically encourage Parliament to continue on the sound financial environment, coming to financial statements, compliance, laws and regulation, and then financial information in that regard. And then we're also speaking about the governance processes in terms of the refurbishing. There should be appropriate oversight over that, because that will be quite substantial amount of funds that will be spent in that regard. And then lastly, we're speaking about strengthening support to the portfolio committees and making sure they're appropriately capacitated to be able to support Parliament's operations. So, Honourable Chairperson, that would be from my side. I kept to the time limit, taking into account there's other things that also needs to be attended to. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, AG. And I also want to appreciate your time management. You have assisted a lot. You have said everything important, but in an economic time. Thank you so much. Can we step off from this item and allow STP, Mr. George, an opportunity to present the annual report?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to honorable members. We appreciate the opportunity to share with the committee the statement of accountability of Parliament in terms of executing the work for the financial year 2022 and 2023. I will share this report, Honorable Chairperson, with the CFO on areas that cover the domain of financial management and governance. On the areas of coverage, we will deal with the strategic priorities of the 6th Parliament administration as the last leg of the reporting year. So our report, Chairperson, will essentially cover such areas as performance information, financial statements, audit report as already covered by AG, and also share with the committee how we intend approaching the framework for reporting on the macro strategy framework that we have developed to execute the agenda of the 7th Parliament. Chairperson, also the last time we appeared before the committee, there were recommendations that the committee made. We would also reflect on those recommendations. So on the 5 strategic priorities that were adopted in 2019, they focused on those 5 key areas, and we will endeavor to report on those areas, albeit at a level where we are still struggling on data quality, data collection, and this is one area we'll be investing on going forward so that we can link Parliament to development outcomes. On the area of performance information, on one of the key mandates of Parliament, the lawmaking mandate, 28 bills were passed last year, focusing on various cluster areas of Parliament. And those areas were central to ensuring that Parliament assist government in putting enabling legal framework to execute the medium-term strategic framework. 8 of those bills, Honorable Chairperson, were money bills, which are routinely presented every year as part of resourcing the budget. We also report on oversight, Chairperson, and during the year under review, in summary, 78 oversight visits were performed by the committees of Parliament, including such areas that speaks to questions, debates, as well as statements on areas. May I check something, Chairperson? Is the slide moving on your side?
It is not,
It's
Secretary.
not moving.
It's not moving.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Okay. May I check if the slide number 6 is the one on the screen?
Slide number 2.
So we're still on slide number 2.
Yes.
Okay, we will move it. My apology, Chairperson, on that. Go back to second slide. Are we?
Moving.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I just want to establish if we are on slide number 2.
Yes, Secretary.
Yes, thank you very much. On performance information, I did cover that we'll be reporting on the 5 strategic priorities as outlined in the 6th Parliament, but also cover areas around lawmaking where 28 bills were passed during the year under the reporting period, and largely those were talking to the 8 bills that were money bills. The rest were focusing on other clusters of Parliament. The second area of reporting is on oversight, where about 78 oversight visits by committees were undertaken during the year, and those were focusing largely on areas of statements, critical questions, and performance of the executive. In both houses, Chairperson, there were about written questions for the National Assembly, totaling 4,224 and 1,311 written questions from the NCOP. And you would notice, Chairperson, that the performance around the National Assembly hasn't been that good in terms of the responses from the executive compared to the NCOP, where there was relatively high number of reporting in terms of performance. On the area of oversight at committee level, 1,300 committee meetings were conducted, focusing on monitoring legislation and scrutinizing budgets and performance. And those areas are depicted in terms of priority focus areas, largely on area of monitoring legislation, as well as budget performance. On public participation, areas that were undertaken were about 198 public hearings on various bills, and these provided opportunities for diverse stakeholders to engage directly with legislators and contribute to the policy-making process. The area of information and coverage and access, this is a report on areas of social media domains, the various channels we used, but we are quite not happy, Chairperson, in terms of how we are performing on these areas. It is below par, given the size of the population of our country, 62 million people as of recent, and we are still not hitting close to 2 million in terms of covering this. So we are currently reviewing our broadcasting strategy as part of 2023-2024, so that we can have deeper penetration both on social media, on community radios, as well as the multimedia coverage, to make sure that we complement public participation in a manner that draws citizenry into interest areas of what Parliament does. So it's an area that we are refocusing on because our performance is not good in this area. The area of overall performance, as also confirmed by AG, we achieved all our targets. We have also started the work, as Madam Speaker has covered, on the restoration of buildings. The work is proceeding very well, albeit with minor glitches on certain areas, but we are fairly confident that overall Parliament will be able to execute its work in a manner as outlined. On the interventions in terms of promoting cooperative governance and providing support, the National Council of Provinces, in terms of Section 139, processed a number of areas where it has been approached from various provinces. You will see the dominant part of these areas were focusing on KZN and also in the Eastern Cape and Free State, and those were executed during the year under review. On international engagement pillar, again, Parliament has been quite visible in a number of international fora, starting with the Pan-African Parliament, with the SADC Parliamentary Forum, with multilateral bodies in terms of international domain, where we were participating in the IPU, as well as the non-aligned movement parliamentary networks, including COP at the UN level in terms of the Convention on Climate Change, as well as the Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference. On the restoration of Parliament, as indicated, we are executing the work and we are implementing a number of measures. Where we are still struggling is to secure additional offices in terms of ensuring that even committees of Parliament, they are well resourced to be able to perform their work. And we are busy with that work of engaging Public Works to release additional space for Parliament to be able to solution all its needs around committee work, as well as finalizing committee restoration for all members, while simultaneously we are busy with the reconstruction of the National Assembly. This is the satisfaction levels of members in terms of our service offering, in terms of technical advice, procedural advice, to improve on how we resource members to perform their work. These are areas we are constantly engaged to ensure that we are timeous, but at the same time, we've got capacity, even in those areas where we are currently weak on, areas of committees where we have received quite a number of complaints from members on how we are providing that support. So it's an area that we'll be focusing on to ensure improvement going forward. On financial performance information, I'll ask the CFO to quickly move in speed so that I can rejoin later on the forward-looking report.
Thank you, Secretary. Good morning, chairpersons. Good morning, honourable members. As you can see in this slide that we've got a graphical representation of our spending for the year. Overall, we did underspend by 9%, and that was made up of a combination of underspending in certain areas, mainly due to underspending and compensation of employees, as well as property, plant and equipment, goods and services, and transfers to non-profit organizations. The only overspending area was noted was the compensation of members. If we can move to the next slide, please. Here we see the table of figures that was represented in the previous slide, as well as the percentages. And as you can see at the bottom, we've got an overall underspending of 9%. Just to draw your attention to the 62% of acquisitions of property, plants and equipment, and that was mainly due to the late delivery of computer equipment and motor vehicles. However, I will get into the detail on the next few slides when we have a look at the explanations of variances as well as remedial actions. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, when we have a quick look at our compensation of employees, we had an underspending of about 6%. And this was mainly due to the terminations during the year, the delays in the filling of our vacancies, which has happened subsequently, which would happen in the 2023-24 financial year, as well as the delays in the finalization of our early retirements. And we also had a non-payment of performance bonuses, which did affect the COE figure for the year. When we look at compensation of members, there was an overspending of 14%. However, this is taken into account in the national accounts at the end of the year, so it doesn't affect our books. And the main reason for the overspending is due to loss of office and exit gratuities. When we look at our goods and services, that was mainly due to delays in the disaster management project, and these funds would be rolled over into the next financial year. Transfers to non-profit organizations, mainly we had an underspending of about 1%. This was mainly due to one political party not providing annual financial statements. And then our final area, which was the acquisition of property, plants and equipment, as I was mentioning, 62% underspending in that area. However, it was a small rand value in comparison to the other economic classifications, and this was due to the delay in delivery of computers and motor vehicles. Okay, if we move to the next slide. Can you move to the next slide, please? Is it me? I'm still on the slide regarding variance explanations. If we can move to slide 19, that would help.
We are on slide number 19.
19, apologies. Can you just move forward? I think we're still on that variance explanation, which I've just explained. Good. It's the slide with the two pie charts on it, which would be, okay, it looks like slide 21 is being adjusted. All right, let me just give you a quick overview. Basically drawing your attention to the post-retirement medical aid. As the AG has alluded, there is a large liability on our balance sheet that we are in discussions with National Treasury to take over. Unfortunately, this is putting us into a net liability position. There we go. If we have a look at that, the next slide, which is the one with the pie charts. Okay, just to give you an overview, basically that I just wanted to obviously highlight on that point. Yes, that's the one. If we have a look at the pie chart at the top, that shows us currently where we are for non-current liabilities, 1.6 billion. And if we exclude the Parliament, we drop right down to 400 million. That is the intention of Parliament going forward. This is currently the liability that we are sitting with. And we obviously intend to move or shift that liability to National Treasury to assist us. And as you can see, it would make our balance sheets a lot stronger. If we move to the next slides, please. Okay, the next few slides, I think just shift right down to the last financial position slide. The next few slides basically provide us an overview of the financial position. Just go one back, please. There we go. Just leave it on that one. Thank you. The next few slides basically provide us an overview of the financial position or the balance sheet items that we have in the annual reports and the annual financial statements. It provides us with variance explanations of if there was an increase from the previous year to the current year. And it basically details the reasons behind any increases or decreases within our values. However, I just wanted to draw attention again to this last slide on the financial position, which was the irregular expenditure, as correctly stated by the Auditor-General. It was a decrease from the prior from 2.1 million down to 124,000. I believe that 124,000 is mainly due to the emergency expenditure on legal services that were required quite close to the end of the financial year. As you'll see again, we've also to draw to your attention, we've got fruitless and wasteful expenditure that's been reduced from 53,000 down to 29,000. And this was mainly due to interest and penalties for late payments to SARS. And yeah, I'd like to hand back to the Secretary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Back to you, STP. Mr. George. STP.
Can you hear me, Chairperson?
Now I can hear you. Take over.
Thank you very much. My apology.
Yeah, and co-chairperson will take over from here. Honorable Mali.
Yes, this is the new area of reporting, Chairperson, that we will be focusing on. And I can see it's freezed on that side, but in the interest of time, I can talk on it. In the next reporting framework, we will be focusing on linking the work of Parliament to outcomes and impacts. And we are improving our reporting to ensure that we will be data focusing to support committees in undertaking their own oversight and more on the outbound mission of our work. On such areas as tracking performance and outcomes, we will be looking at areas of tracking the national development objectives, such areas as tracking contribution of the medium-term strategic framework on unemployment, inequality, and poverty as structural barriers to attainment of improving the quality of life of citizens. So we'll be focusing on those areas in 2024 to 2029, determining where we are and make sure that Parliament in performing oversight can track commitments of the executive around those areas. We will also be focusing on improving responsiveness rate of Parliament in terms of the areas where we are in both houses, and also be able to follow through on petitions management in a manner that responds to citizen-centric approach to reporting. On the area of improving on aligning our reporting framework, we would also be looking at how the National Development Plan objectives must be looked at and make sure that our own work seeks to focus on outcomes and impacts. The framework that we have outlined, Chairperson, would be seeking to focus on 5 pillars: building a responsive parliament, but also building a caring parliament, and also strengthening the intervening arm of parliament within its own enabling constitutional framework in terms of Section 42 of the Constitution. We are also looking at strengthening our collaborative strategy, as well as improving effective stakeholder engagement. Areas that we'll be looking at include how we will improve on priority indicators and also improve the understanding of society around the trust in parliament and trust in the entirety of the state. Oversight priorities on key work of each committee. These are just examples, Chairperson, focusing on basic education, as well as focusing on health areas as examples, but we will be tracking across all committees in such a way that we migrate from outcomes to impact as core focus areas. Chairperson, I will also report on the recommendations as the last slide, recommendations that the committee made in our last appearance. And this is a statement of accountability in those areas. The committee raised issues of public participation, issues that related to financial matters, and we have responded to those areas in terms of the issues raised at the committee level, but also the committee requested that we must continuously update it on our progress on organizational realignment progress. I think at an appropriate time, Chairperson, you would guide us so that we can come back and give an update on the whole range of areas on change management, as well as policy reviews, as well as organizational review, which are aimed at strengthening the capacity of Parliament. The areas of engagement on the budget of Parliament, we are busy working on the budget model for Parliament, and we are at a stage where we are calling for proposals to make sure that by the time we are able to engage with National Treasury, we have a stronger case to present for the review of Parliament. The issue of permit liability, the CFO has already covered, that it is a major albatross in our neck, and our strategy is to make sure that this must move to the national fiscus in terms of Treasury managing all state liabilities, because it distorts the balance sheet of Parliament. And as a going concern, we are concerned that the materiality framework of Parliament may find itself in a difficulty if these risks were to materialize instantly. So creatively, we're finding a way to make sure that we can improve our financial sensitivity modeling to improve how we can protect Parliament from this ballooning permit obligation. On the areas of performance, areas that we are still working on is Treasury Advice Office, the Budget Office, and the LSS sector, wherein we were advised on how to make sure they are streamlined and they report as part of Parliament, while simultaneously managing the statutory status of the Budget Office, but integrated in such a manner that there is seamless interface on how its work informs Parliament. Automation and streamlining, part of our transformation objectives in this current APP. We are focusing on this area of putting a new framework for petitions process, but also looking at improving our combined risk assurance model as part of improvement. Regulations of PFMA, we have relooked at this question, and one of the areas that we are looking at is around reviewing the FMPLA so that the regulations that must then be done, they take into account areas of improvement overall in terms of the legislation. That's basically the key summary, Chairperson, of the issues that were raised. And we are presenting the report for the committee to consider. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, STP. Thank you very much,
Auditor-General's Office. Members, good morning. I'm taking over as advised earlier on. Can we then engage on the two presentations? We can just ask questions, clarity-seeking questions, make recommendations randomly. The STP's team will note theirs. The Auditor General will do the same. Good morning, members. Can I take hands? Okay. Cindy, please also help me to note hands. I see the hand of Member Singh, Member Team.
Mr. Hadebe, Chair.
Mr. Hadebe. Okay, in that order, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to you and colleagues and STP and his team. I'm sorry about the noise, but there's noise just outside my office here, and you know why.
It's a necessary noise. We need it. We need it.
Yeah.
It's a necessary noise that we need.
Yeah, as long as you can hear me. Thank you for the presentations. Yeah, there's two things I'm concerned about, and one is, have we managed to have any finality or discussions on the PARMED issue with Treasury? You know, that always is an issue, and we are soon going to retire, and we're paying for other provinces. What's the outcome of those discussions? And secondly, I'm concerned, I think, and so is my party, about the questions not being answered by some ministers, particularly in the National Assembly. And we received a report a few days ago. And, you know, I noted that there are questions asked in February of this year, you know, by many of me and my members, and in fact, colleagues from other parties, that have not been answered by certain ministers. And it's well and good for us to send, you know, a letter to the leader of government business, and Mr. Michael does that very well. But what more action can we take? Because we put in these questions because we expect answers. So those are the two things that I want to raise. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
Team, I've noted team, followed by Mr. Hadebe. Please in that order, so that we save time.
Thank you, Chairperson. Sorry, I thought it was Mr. Hadebe first, but thank you very much for the opportunity. Chairperson, yeah, the issue I just want to raise is a thorny issue, and I just want to, you know, since the last sitting of the NA, which was in the City Hall about the vote on the Public Protector, there is an elephant in the room that is hanging around, and it's not being addressed, and that's the issue of the salary of the STP. When are we going to get a fulsome and wholesome answer to the questions around the initial salary offering to the STP, and then what appears to be the murky backhanding, backdealings that then lead to the STP salary rising dramatically? When are we going to get a fulsome answer from both the Speaker of the NA and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces as to what were the actual deals done behind the scenes, not brought to this particular committee, not made open to us? We were not brought into the confidence of those two leaders of Parliament. The matter was not discussed with us, but then lo and behold, we are presented with the fact that the STP now earns a salary which is massive, and certainly was not on the table when the appointment was first made. So I don't see that the Speaker or the House, the Chairperson, is here today. unless I've missed them on the participants list. But when are we going to, as a committee, get a proper, detailed answer on what happened there and why the people of South Africa in this committee were misled? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hadebe?
No, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning, everyone on the platform. First of all, Chairperson, I'd like to welcome both the reports of the Auditor General plus the report of the Secretary to Parliament. I think that it gives us solace to know that the public funds are being managed properly. That's why the AG has given Parliament spokes a clean bill of health. I think that it must be sustained in moving forward. But what I'm interested in, Chairperson, is that there are certain priorities which the NDP demanded us to do, in which those priorities are also in the land, or in Parliament land, or strategic plan. That one of creating employment because of high levels of poverty. Number two, of fighting inequality and poverty. So what I'm interested in, I'm very happy that also the Secretary to Parliament has admitted that there are certain improvements which can be made. But what I'd like to ask the AG is that as they were doing their books, do they interact with the committees of Parliament? Say, for example, if the strategic plan of Parliament is going to say we're going to deal with poverty, we're going to deal with unemployment, does the AG office interact, let's say, with the committees? Do they sample the committees so that they interact with them to see whether what is there in the plan or what is there in the oversight model is being implemented? Did they do that in preparing these books? Because sometimes it can be exercise of ticking a box that we've covered this, it is done and dusted. But what I'm interested in, that's why I'm raising this issue, because there are certain things which happen, just like the issue of public participation. The issue of public participation is a constitutional imperative that when the committees deal with legislation, there must be public participation. And then there are certain committees where the public participation was very poor. I'm just going to mention only one committee, the portfolio committee on transport. When they were dealing with the railway safety bill, I'll request also on that regard, because the Secretary to Parliament said that he'll come back. I'll request that he must come back with a report on the public participation on that of that committee, in particular when they were there in the Free State. That's the province I'm coming on. That how much did they spend in that public participation in Velkom? How many people were there? Did the unit of public participation in Parliament do its job before time? I think that if you can get a detailed report around that, I'll really be appreciating before the Parliament rises at the end of the year. On the issue, the other issue is the issue of the oversight. I'm very happy that there are certain committees which are doing good oversight, but we nearly as a country suffered an embarrassment whereby during the Rugby World Cup, we nearly lost the right to hoist our flag. We nearly lost the right to sing our national anthem in that world stage. And then when I made a checkup with the portfolio committee of sport, they said they didn't do any oversight. They didn't go anywhere. Whereas these things were there for quite a long time. I'll also request the Secretary to Parliament, please bring a report here. How many oversight how many oversight tours did the Committee of Sport do? Because we know very well that even during the World Cup or of Banyana, there were serious problems in that camp. Were they allowed to go and speak with SAFA? Were they allowed to do oversight? If they didn't do that, what was the reason? Because we don't want the reports which are good, but on practice on the ground, it is not the same. If I can get those two reports, I'll really appreciate it. On the side of the AG, do they interact, let's say, with the chairperson of committees and check whether what is being provided is really what is happening on that side. And then on the issue of one of the threats which is there for Parliament is the salary bill of Parliament is very high. There must be, we know very well that what happens is that the parliamentary staff is not a public service staff, but sometimes there's a confusion, cross-referencing between this issue. There must be a bargaining chamber which deals with that. STP, how far is that? How is it being used? And then on the issue raised by Honorable Tim, on the issue of the Secretary to Parliament, I'll concur with him. What I request is that because both the executive authority is not here, we cannot expect the Secretary to Parliament to respond to anything. But what I suggest is that before the Parliament rises, before the end of the year, the executive authority must come and give us a full report around that issues which are surrounding the issue of the appointment of the Secretary to Parliament. Because as this legislature, we're the highest office in the country, that's where the president accounts. So we must be seen to be doing things properly inside. So I'll appeal that co-chairpersons, please communicate with the executive authority that before the Parliament rises, they must come and give their report to the Joint Standing Committee on Financial Management of Parliament. Thank you, Chair.
Advice taken that we should actually get a detailed report in a form of maybe a formal meeting where we can just have that as a priority item. That's in hand of Member Mahlangu.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Am I audible? Yes. Chair, I think I concur, support the suggestion by Honorable Khadebe on the issue of the salary of the STP. As we have heard, there have been noises, but then as the relevant and responsible committee, we need to get informed and clarity from the executive authority. I support that view. Also welcome these two presentations, but on the issue of the engagement that is there between Parliament and the Treasury, it's a move that one welcomes because we are concerned about the allocation or that is directed to parties for PCOs and their activities. It's eating on the budget of Parliament, but also how do we as Parliament account to that or oversight as the joint committee? How do we oversight on that on those funds? So I think it's a good move so that it can be accounted for or get an executive authority, being the Minister of Finance, to give an account on the matter. One last thing that I want to raise, Honorable Chairperson, is the issue of appointments. We welcome the processes, but one thing that is outstanding, and I think it's a serious concern, the appointment of the head or the advocate or whoever's going to be responsible for heading the ethics committee. I mean, the person who's going to be responsible for ethics. We've been having Advocate Gordon acting for a very long time. And I don't know if Parliament have started the process of recruiting or advertising. That's one matter that I would like the STP to give an indication on. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Okay, Member Umphile and Member Mahlo after.
Okay, thank you very much.
Tim, please lower your hand.
Chairperson, that's a second question, please.
Oh, okay, it's
Chairperson.
fine. You'll come after Mahlo.
Thank
Is
you,
it a
Chairperson.
follow-up on what we have raised, or is it
No, it's a new question, Chairperson.
completely different?
Completely new question, Chairperson. Thank you,
Okay,
Chairperson.
Umphile, Mahlo, and Tim.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to the colleagues. Chair, I also want to echo the same sentiments of the members who raised the issue of questions not being answered. And this is not the first time that we are talking about this issue. You know, year in, year out, we get given statistics and reports of questions that are not being answered. But the question is, what is the process for accountability and consequence management for ministers who don't respond to questions? Chair, we as members of parliament, we get held accountable all the time. If you don't submit a declaration, there's consequence for that. So why are we not having the same consequence management when it comes to the executive? So it's really not fair that as members, we ought to do things within a stipulated time frame, and the ministers, they can just get away with it. It's unacceptable. And we need the answers. What is the procedure? What is the consequence management for those ministers? Equally, because we get held accountable. That's the first one, Chair. And the second one is the restoration of parliament. The report says 2 billion has been allocated for the restoration of parliament. Now, my question is, how much has been spent to date? And with what has been spent so far, is it correlating with the work on the ground? So if we're at 40%, are we spending in line with the work that is the progress that is on the ground? Number two, the report doesn't tell us when is the expected date of completion for this project. So we're just moving. Or maybe it's known somewhere, but it's not in the report. Can you also be told when is the expected date of completion, and how far are we in terms of progress to complete this restoration of parliament project? And that will be all from my side, Chair. Thank you.
Member Mahlo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me say good morning to you both, our chairs of this committee, my colleagues, including our officials. Let me also welcome the presentations done by both AG and the Secretary of Parliament. We are here to welcome the efforts of the administration to come and present to us as members of the Standing Committee. We really appreciate the hard work that you are doing in Parliament, and it also gives us some of the most important information that can also help us to understand what is going on or what is happening in our Parliament. I just wanted to check that there are some resolutions that we have taken on some of the legislations that have been passed in Parliament. I heard that we have 28 legislations that have been passed on Parliament. I just wanted to check what is happening with those that have not been passed. What is the status of those legislations that are not being passed? Do we have any information with regard to that? If yes, what is happening? What is going to happen? What are the issues on those that are not being passed? And then the other thing that I wanted to check with the management of Parliament, I just wanted to check the effectiveness of the administration with regard to the issue of Parliament getting there. I heard a little bit about the issue of treasury. I heard one of the chairperson welcoming the move, though I did not hear. Sorry for my ignorance. I didn't hear what is the main issue on that with treasury, because I think in one of the meetings we requested that the Parliament must meet with the treasury so that we can be able to know what is going on, because this Parliament cannot operate like a department. We are not a department. We are an upper arm to the departments. We need to have the right allocation to Parliament to be able to deal with issues that need us to deal with. The other issue that I wanted to talk about, I just want to understand, because I'm a bit lost. We are a Parliament having 9 legislatures out there. Some of the legislatures did well, some of the legislatures did not do well. But I just wanted to check, what are the monitoring and evaluation tools that we have to check on those legislatures? Because we are the national Parliament, where all those legislatures must be able to come to us and report so that we can see the progress they are doing down there for our people in South Africa. Those are some of the things that I'm not really clear on them, which I think I can be assisted to understand on those legislators that are not doing well. What are the monitoring and evaluation tools that we have? How do we assist those legislatures that are not able to do what we want them to do? So those are some of the things that I wanted also to check, that as Parliament also, what is it that we are doing to those, what will I say? How will I put it? Yes, I think through the legislatures, if we can be able to have a monitoring and evaluation tool, we can be assisted to understand all those municipalities that are failing to deliver the services to our people. Through the legislatures, we can be able to understand how can we help, because this is one of the most important things that is taking our dignity down, because most of the municipalities, they are failing to deliver services to the people because of certain things that we don't know, like ESCOM, not ESCOM actually. Let me say, municipalities are being owed a lot of money by certain departments that the legislatures must be able to talk to those departments and let the municipalities get the money. So those are some of the things that I wanted to understand. Sorry, I might not be putting them in the right context, but those are my fears, worries that I have in my mind. Thank you very much, coaches.
Thank you, Ma. Kim?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, yes, thanks for the second opportunity. There were two issues that skipped my attention. The first one, Chairperson, I'm sure you, co-chair, and all the members on this call this morning will have noted that sorry, Chairperson, thank you. Somebody's unmuted, Chairperson. Anyway, Chairperson, the issue that we have, Chairperson, I don't know who's unmuted, but it's disruptive while you're trying to talk. Members should have noted, Chairperson, that the streaming services for Parliament have been interrupted. In other words, it is difficult for the people of our country to follow our deliberations at the moment. And I'm advised that the bill simply wasn't paid. So I'd like to have a response from the very well-paid Secretary to Parliament as to why on earth that's happened. At the moment, there are no streaming services to parliamentary sittings. And that is completely unacceptable. And I'd like to get an answer on that. So I would like to also then ask another question, and it came to full fruition yesterday in a sitting of the National Council of Provinces. When we have a cluster of ministers coming to Parliament, either to the NA or to the NCOP, to answer, to do oral questions answering in a session, obviously in the preamble to that, questions are submitted, they are then prioritized, and the minister is given 6 questions that they have to answer, and then obviously the follow-up questions. But there is a breakdown in our system whereby the questions are sent through, and if there is a particular issue, as there was yesterday, with the minister not being able to answer a question, and the specific instance yesterday was the Minister of State in the Presidency for State Security, where that minister felt that she could not answer those questions. And we had the ridiculous situation where the minister came to the House, in fact, didn't actually come to the House, appeared on the hybrid platform, which we felt was a bit of an insult. But anyway, and that is actually another question. When will Parliament start demanding that ministers actually come to the House and appear in the House as a non-negotiable? So that's a question as well. But we had a minister in the House yesterday saying the answer to that question, and I'm quoting, will be submitted to the Joint Standing Committee on State Security. In other words, not an answer at all. Surely our system is failing us, whereby the departments involved can write back to the questions department in Parliament and saying, that question there, if I give the answer, will threaten the security of the state. Please reformulate the question, or please ask another question so that I can respond properly. Our question system, when we're submitting the written questions, the initial written question, has to be looked at to make sure that we don't have ridiculous situations going back to the House where a minister just says, I can't answer that question, or that question, the answer to that question will go to a closed secret committee meeting. We need to establish what the breakdown is there, because we cannot have a situation in Parliament where members of Parliament ask a question and the answer comes back and that answer is a non-answer. We have to address that. Then my final question is, I note that Honourable Masondo is on the call, and I thank him for that. But I would have thought that when we're having a presentation from the AGSA, that both executive heads of Parliament should be here. So my question to the committee secretariat is, via the chairs, is, was the Speaker invited to this meeting? And if so, why did the Speaker not attend, as Honourable Masondo has clearly honoured the invitation to attend this meeting and is present? Surely they should be present in such an important meeting of this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Speaker was indeed invited. She made opening remarks and requested that she be excused. She was expected to lead the delegation that is going to welcome the rugby team. I'm sorry you might have missed that. It was the first thing that happened in the meeting. She did request for an apology. It's also unfortunate that ministers will choose and decide what to say. I'm sure the STP would not agree with that as well. We should really indeed find ways of improving systems in terms of holding the executive accountable. That we definitely agree. Dr. Masondo, before we hand over to the STP and the team, I think there was not much raised with the Auditor General's office. Can I invite you so that you lay the tone and then hand over to the STP and the team?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to say that I'm also expected to be in this event to welcome the box, the POG. I don't really think that there's anything much to say on my side. So I'll try to follow as we move from item to item to the best of my ability. But for now, no comment.
Okay, thank you. STP?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And there will be areas of procedure for procedures, and Mr. Kaso, and the bills that have not yet been processed. What is the process to handle them? Advocate Zureya and Mr. Kaso would share response, the technical aspects of that work. Chairperson, on the issue of streaming of services, services have been restored since the budget day. The question from Honorable Brotteset, services have been restored during budget day. There was full streaming and it is active as of now. We would like to apologize to the committee because on the 23rd of October, when the service was terminated, it was an expiry of a contract as opposed to non-payment of a service provider. And it was expiring at the time when we anticipated that the supply chain process would have concluded for the renewal and or appointment of a new service provider. So it could not be concluded timely in that regard. And we are in the process of finalizing that aspect. What we have done so far was to make sure the service is restored, albeit on a temporary basis. And we would like to sincerely apologize for that glitch that happened. And it's an area that will stabilize going forward. On the area of the improvement on monitoring and evaluation for provincial legislatures and how service delivery can be improved, and that question came from Honorable Matlo. It will be an area where we are working on the current macro framework strategy I've indicated. Two of those pillars speak to responsiveness, building a responsive parliament. And that speaks to the collaborative pillar, how we will work together with provincial legislatures. We have already taken this strategy, Honorable Chairperson and members, to provincial legislatures through this provincial speakers forum. It was widely accepted and well endorsed to an extent that other provinces have started to frame their approach for the next term to be more aligned to Parliament's macro strategy. We think on the area of investing on data collection, we will be in a better space to synchronize committee work, public participation with provinces as part of improving how we undertake oversight in a joint mechanisms where practically and in areas that are complementary where it is practical. So it's one of those areas that we are working on. On the area of restoration of Parliament, we have responded. We have reported, Chairperson, previously, if honorable members were to recall on this, and we always undertake that as a separate presentation. Perhaps through you, co-chairs, you could call us back to give a detailed account where we are on restoration and give an update on expenditure. So far, we have not expended significantly on the capital amount for restoration for the reason that we are currently at the design phase of the restoration work, which is when the bulk work would attract significant expenditure growth once we start breaking ground on the restoration. So far, we spent money on technical work, designs, assessment, removal of rubble, hoarding, as well as roofing of the National Assembly. And the second part of our expenditure has been on the area of offices for members and so on. So the bulk of that expenditure will be once we start breaking down on the restoration. But as I said, Chairperson, once we are called in the next sitting, we will request that it be a special focus so that we regularly update the committee in that regard. On the area of finality on appointment of the registrar, we are working on that area, and it's something we'll prioritize to also keep to date the co-chairs of the ethics committee on how we will expedite the finality on the appointment of the registrar of the process. On areas, Honorable Khadebe, on bargaining processes for employees of parliament as a distinct arm of the state, indeed, we have started that work as part of harmonization in the domain of policies to make sure that we can have an aligned approach to this question. So far, at the level of practice, we are able to have a bargaining structure where legislatures all sit and parliament around this matter. The only province that is not fully aligned to that is the Western Cape province, and we are hard at work to make sure that the work itself must ensure greater levels of harmony in terms of conditions of service of employees, but also nudge all legislatures to form part of a coherent approach to conditions of services, as well as issues of bargaining. On the report on public participation, the weaknesses that I've outlined, indeed, Honorable Khadebe would produce the report on what has happened in the Free State, what has happened in Mpumalanga, what has happened in Pretoria and Hammanskraal, in terms of some of the committees that have given us complaints, including the Mineral and Energy Committee that also was besieged with problems, most recently at Kimberley, as well as their work at Free State. So we are making interventions in that area with the intention to improve in that area. I would like on that point, Chairperson, also indicate to Honorable Singh the issue of finality in engaging with National Treasurer on permit. Indeed, Honorable Singh, we are working with Treasurer on this matter. Our intention is to make sure we offload this liability on the side of Parliament so that it doesn't continue to distort the balance sheet of Parliament in terms of a significant obligation of that nature that carries with it an albatross in terms of the going concern potential for Parliament. So we are engaging with that area. We have requested a meeting now with the new Director General of Treasury to be able to bring these matters, including issues around augmentation of the budget of Parliament, which we have detailed such issues as the implementation of the State Capture Commission, the implementation aspects of the cost drivers we would need to make sure that Parliament is empowered to support committees to discharge their obligation. So that will form part of the package of our discussion with the National Treasurer. With your permission, Chairperson, I'll ask Mr. Kaso to talk on the procedural aspect as well as the bill as the last items. Thanks.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Just in terms of questions and the matter of delayed replies or failure to reply to questions, in the NA, there are 3 steps that the Speaker follows. It is to write to the Minister to ask for reasons. The second step is to appeal to the Leader of Government Business to intervene when there is no improvement. And the third step is a reprimand. Now, honorable members may recall that in March, Speaker administered a reprimand in the House and reprimanded ministers who had not complied with the rules at the time. Speaker is still very concerned about the lack of replies or responsiveness to this. She has scheduled a meeting with the Leader of Government Business to discuss the matter, and of course the dates must still be confirmed. But also, following that engagement, if there is still no improvement, the next step is to administer a reprimand in the House concerning those ministers that are affected. So that is what is happening in terms of questions and the non-responsiveness by the executive. Now, on legislation, it's a matter that can be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. So it will be difficult to say what are the reasons for a particular bill not to be passed. But where there is no desirability, for instance, for a bill to be proceeded with, the committee will report to the House, and the House would obviously say, we don't agree to the bill. But in the event that we get to the next election, and there are bills that are still in the system and not finalized. Obviously, those bills will lapse, but there is a provision in the rules of both houses for the bills to be revived in the new parliament. So that is what would happen. But as I say, Honorable Chairperson, it's a matter that can be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, because some of these situations, they are really specific and peculiar to a particular piece of law. Thank you, ma'am.
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I'm not sure whether the Secretary of the National Council of Provinces, with regard to questions of yesterday, if there's any procedural point that he would like to share, if any, on yesterday's proceeding at the House.
Thank you very much, Secretary, and thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning, honorable members and colleagues. I must say, with the greatest of respect, Chair, that the matters that Honorable Brother raised relating to the proceedings of the National Council of Provinces yesterday fall squarely within the domain of members. And indeed, if there's a need to amend the rules, it's up to the House to determine whether the rules should be amended or not. But insofar as responding to questions are concerned, the responses by ministers, there's totally nothing that a presiding officer can do if a minister responds to a particular question, and the proceedings cannot be adjourned merely because the minister says the answer to that question will be submitted or has been submitted to a relevant committee. We were dealing with intelligence yesterday, and that is how the minister responded. It's up to the members to follow up on those issues. If the rules are insufficient, it's up to the members to say we have to amend the rules in order to deal with these matters. And indeed, the questions are published for oral reply. If the department is not satisfied with a particular question, they normally come back to us to inform us that they are not satisfied with how the question is phrased. In this instance, we did not receive anything from the department that the department was not satisfied with the questions. So it appears to me that that is how the minister wanted to respond to the question, to inform members that the response to that question involves sharing sensitive information in public, and therefore that information will be submitted to the relevant committee of parliament, and it's up to members to follow up on those issues. But the question that I want to emphasize is that if the rules are insufficient for purposes of dealing with questions, it's up to members really to with the greatest of respect, to raise those matters so that the rules can be amended. Administration cannot just amend the rules without it being directed by members that the rules are insufficient. Of course, we can come up with a proposals insofar as the amendment of the rules are concerned, but the domain is the domain of the House to deal with the rules. We have the rules committee, we have the subcommittee on rules. If there's any proposal from any member, the proposals can be submitted to those committees for the purposes of dealing with the rules. Thank you very much, Chair.
Chairperson? Co-chairpersons?
Mr. Khadebe, I've just readmitted Memabe. Okay, she's in now.
All right, my humble apologies. I was cut for a few seconds, but I'm back. STP, are we done on your side?
Yes, we are done, Chairperson.
Okay. No, thank you very much, STP Ntate Masondo, and the speaker in absentia, but she was here earlier on. Members, thank you very much. We will then reschedule the meeting as promised, and also just to make you aware that on the 30th, we will...
Follow-up
Tim,
questions.
is your hand up again?
Yes, it is, Chairperson.
Oh, okay.
Chairperson, I know everybody wants to go down to the front of the NCOP, but we've got important business here. Chairperson, I fully hear what Advocate Pandela said, that the administration can't get involved. But surely a letter of caution or a letter of advice can go to the departments from the relevant House and Parliament saying, when a question is submitted to a minister that they cannot answer in the House, can the minister please write to Parliament and say, it's difficult for us to answer that question, please rephrase the question. Surely there's a mechanism that allows us as Parliament to write to a department and say to them, please don't let that happen again. That if your minister has a problem with the phrasing of the question, there is more than enough time for that department to write back and say, for intelligence reasons, for state security reasons, we can't answer that question in Parliament. If you rephrase it, we may be able to assist you, so that we have that cooperation going. And I just feel in this case, there's going to be no sanction whatsoever against that minister. There should at least be a letter that goes from the NCOP to that minister and says, let's avoid a recurrence of this. If you have a problem with the question, let us know timeously so we can let the member in question know timeously to rephrase their question. Surely there's a mechanism with which we can communicate with the department, get it sorted out, so that when the minister appears in front of us, they can answer and uphold their duty to answer properly to the people of South Africa. You know, after all, it is the People's Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see there's a hand of Member Umpile and Member Khadebe. And Tate Masondo, you'll be the last one.
No, it's an old hand, Chair. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. And Tate Khadebe?
Oh, thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. I think Honorable Tim is correct. I think that immediately after the questions had been prioritized, that they are going to be presented in the House, the ministers are made aware of that. If they have a problem with that, they must do it well in advance, so that if necessary, another question can be brought in, because it will be unfair on the side of the member who has asked the question, or even the South African community at large, that the minister does not answer at a particular time, whereas in the question paper, the question was there. So I'll request that on the side of the SPP. I'll request that on the side of the STP, that if the STP and the secretaries of the both houses can tighten that up, they can tighten that up, that immediately if the questions have been prioritized, the ministers are made aware. If they've got a problem, they come back. Even on the side of the NA, there are times where you find that a same question has been asked by different MPs in a different form, but you can see that the answer is going to be the same. I think that if we can tighten that on the side of Parliament, it will help. It will be very helpful. But on these issues of defense, issues of intelligence, some of the things are very sensitive, but there's nothing wrong with the minister saying that this cannot be answered in public. Because I know that in certain countries, the issues of foreign affairs, the issues of defense, the issues of intelligence, they are not even open for the public. But in our side, it's a little bit different. But if it can be tightened up, it will be all right for this country. All of the best for the box and the Proteas. Thank you.
Tate Masondo?
Just to say, Chair, that I think I'm broadly covered. If there are specific suggestions that members of the NCOP wishes to make, let that be done at an appropriate forum. And perhaps what one would like to really leave with the committee is this whole question of what are the issues that we're supposed to attend to at the joint standing committee of the financial management of Parliament. Is this committee now a platform to be used to raise any other issue that affect any other committee or that people that members feel they ought to raise? Because if we don't put limits, we're going to experience problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. With all that has been said, I was about to close, then there were hands that were raised. We've come to the end, members of our meeting. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Thank you,
just
Chair.
just to mention that the 30th of November is the next scheduled update on the rebuild of Parliament. Maybe for the STP to prepare themselves, and if there are any issues that the AG would want to respond on, we'll request them to do that in writing. Yeah. Otherwise, thank you very much. The scheduled meeting also for the salary increment for the STP will be communicated in due course. Thank you very much, members. Go and enjoy the bogus.
Thank you, leadership. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Long live the Springboks.